Hey everybody, I'm Monty, and Channel 5 is reporting that the song Jingle Bells was not originally written for Christmas. It was actually written for Thanksgiving. One Horse Open Sleigh was the original name, and it was written back in the day by James Lord Pierpont. That's quite a name right there. James Lord Pierpont wrote the song for his church's Thanksgiving concert in the mid 19th century, around 1857. So old Jimmy Peer wrote it for Thanksgiving, but somehow Christmas got it anyway. All right, guys, we are back. Again, this is now the ninth day. I got to keep track right now. Our ninth day in the 12 days of podcasting festive thing I'm doing for y'all. All right, I told you. We knocking these shows out for you guys. All right, end of the year, good for you. Again, we're going to talk about a lot of different things, so some of it will be more Christmas related than others, but there's some things that I got to just kind of address that I want to talk about. One of them is one of the bigger stories to end of the year, and very much controversial and a lot of opinions on this, but talking about the death of UHC headman Brian Thompson, and by the alleged killer Luigi Mangione. And this, of course, there's no way you don't know about this. I'm sure at this point, at least in America. Shout out my international listeners and viewers. But this was a brazen attack in Manhattan around 6:30 in the morning. It's actually, unfortunately, it is on camera, and an attacker jumped out and shot Mr. Thompson a few times, and he succumbed to his injuries and died. This is a husband and father of two. Was the head of UHC United Healthcare. And then there was a manhunt, of course, and the killer actually escaped for a couple of days, which I was surprised by, because in Manhattan there's so many cameras and the gun laws are so strict. But they apprehended Mangione in Pennsylvania at a McDonald's. Someone called in a tip, and he was apprehended. And so the story is just kind of it's really unbelievable. Just not something you expected. Brian Thompson was by himself. He was walking toward a conference, the UHC conference in Manhattan, and so he was just kind of ambushed. And shot in the back. And I don't want to just get into like the gory parts of this or violence, but I'm not for shooting anyone, but shooting somebody in the back is not, that's anyway. But also part of it as well, which is maybe another show we'll do at a different time, is the gun that the killer used is believed to be a ghost gun, which is a 3D printed gun, which is becoming a problem for police because they're harder to trace, harder to, you can get different parts, and, these 3D printing thing is really coming along. So there was that. So with trying to find out who Luigi is, he from what the accounts that I've read and things like that, very bright, very smart young man, was a valedictorian of his high school class at a very prestigious high school, Ivy League, educated, world traveler. He was a computer programmer. And most, you always hear this, but his friends and those that talk about it from family are just really shocked because nothing in his makeup they saw leading to anything like this. Now the whether or not he is, he'll have his day in court, whatever. But he did go dark for a couple months. Like, they actually were looking for him. His family had not heard or seen from him. His friends had not heard or seen from him for a couple of months. That's what they say, going dark. Nobody kind of knows his whereabouts for a couple of months. And then to just not see him, and then the next time you see him, it's in this story of him. It's very eerie. And he actually was being extradited to or taken into court for a hearing, and he did have an outburst while he was being transported by the officers about the healthcare industry. So, but people are still trying to figure out kind of what was really the impetus for him to do this. And unfortunately for Mr. Thompson, who died, um, there's so let me get into what I really want to get into. Doing this, um, and I want to be as sensitive as I can to the victims' families and all those affected. First of all, I don't really think this is going to do whatever Mangione thought was going to happen. I don't think Brian Thompson is like this puppet master over the whole industry. He's a guy, and UHC will replace him. They probably already have. Not trying to sound callous, but UHC is a machine. So that's just a cog in the machine that they're just going to replace. Now it is maybe serving a wake up call to the industry, and I want to talk about the healthcare industry very quickly. The stats that I've seen, when you just understand how big this industry is, they say that the healthcare industry in 2024 had a 10% increase in 2023, a 10.4 increase for the publicly traded U.S. health company, not just UHC, but all of them, in revenue up to 1.07 trillion, and a 6.8% increase in net income to 45.3 billion. So a record year in 2023. And now one thing that this murder did really open up. I mean, not that we didn't know it, but you would see under the major news outlets, people posting about how frustrated they were with the healthcare industry. And anybody that's been to a doctor in the last 30 years, I'm sure you're frustrated with whatever you've had to pay for most of us, even for routine checkups. But you started to see people tell real stories about loved ones that have died, literally have died, because their health care was cut off. And had the health care not been cut off, they would still be living, or would have lived longer than they had previously had. Which is, I mean, you heard some terrible stories. Just the price of what it costs to ride into an ambulance, to be taken by ambulance to a hospital, is astronomical. And people are frustrated. This again is not to warrant shooting someone, is not to warrant murdering a man in cold blood, because again, like I said, murdering Brian Thompson, I don't think is going to bring the industry to a screeching halt, and they're going to give everybody their money back. But there is a frustration, and a warranted frustration. I'll tell you that right now, very much warranted, because I have a friend who recently had a serious medical condition, and I went to visit him, and his wife, as I came in, his wife was frustrated because they were trying to send him home while she was not ready to, or even able to, care for him yet. And she was telling them basically, you guys are supposed to teach me how to take care of him first before you send him home. But it gets to the point, even at these hospitals, where it seems like once they can't really do much more majorly for you, it's time to get out and get a free bed to put somebody else in. And this is not to denigrate the healthcare workers. And I want to be clear when I say that, because the healthcare workers are not in charge of the healthcare industry. That's like getting mad at the 17-year-old kid making your Subway sandwich about the price of the sandwich, when he has no control over that. He's just making the sandwich, okay? Now, if you're mad about he put too much salami on there, that's one thing. The nursing industry and the doctors, and if there's malpractice, that's one thing. But the cost and things, the nurses don't ring the bill up and charge whatever they want to charge. That's the industry, and that's what we're really talking about. And like I said before, the issue with even this murder is the fact that the machine is already going. When they murdered like Dr. King, the civil rights movement was going. It was not as a self-sustaining machine yet. So murdering him really did put a dent in the civil rights movement. It really did. We still got some things, but to get rid of Dr. King, you see what I'm saying? So to get a visionary before his vision is fully, seen, that's why they would murder people or kill people, things like that, and some assassinations. But at this point, like I said, this industry is so big. Understand this. The healthcare industry is literally the largest industry in the world, and I'm talking. You can put oil. The big ones are like oil, travel, but the life and health insurance, the life industry and health insurance and keeping people healthy and treating people all that is the largest industry by world revenue. There's oil and gas, there's real estate, there's cars and all that stuff, but number one is healthcare. So which encompasses a lot of things, but people are very frustrated with the insurance side, and that's what UHC is and other ones, and how again the price of just pills, just to take the pill a person needs to regulate their body in some way, it'll just skyrocket up. We can't afford it anymore, or we're cutting off your coverage now. Well, what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to? Well, there's nothing we can do. And I read so many just heartbreaking stories of people are like, you know, this is what happened to my mother. This is what happened to my son. This is what happened to my brother. And this is what, they cut this off, or he couldn't get treated for this, or he was dying and they didn't say we didn't have enough money for this and that. And in this country, it is just out of control. And so, there was a statement. There was a statement by the UHC. Maybe I'm trying to remember. Was it? Someone said that yes, there has to be, it's some reforms and things like that. I don't know what we're going to see with that. I don't know how far that's going to go. Again, because there's so much money to be made off of treating sick people and trying to prevent people from getting sick, if you will. But that ties into our food, and just the craziness of what they put in our food, these super processed foods. That's a show I'm going to do at some point. It's like, again, there's a show I used to watch called 30 Rock, and in it the corporate guy Jack Donaghy was talking about vertical integration. And vertical integration means, he was giving an example. He said, what if like the people that made your favorite corn chips also made like Pepto Bismol, something like that, right? And so he was talking to the person. The person went, "Oh, that's cool, because they could just give you a sample of that too in case you had indigestion." He's like, "Right." He said, "Keep going." Then she was like, "Oh, but then maybe they would make the chips give you indigestion, and then you have to buy it." He's like, "Ah." And she was like, "Well, that doesn't seem right." And he's like, "They shouldn't do that." And he's like, "Well, it's my job to make sure they do." And that was, it was a comedy show, but that's kind of what it is. Like, they make you want the corn chips. They put stuff in there to get you, and we'll talk about that. These super processed foods is making you want them, but they make you sick. So then the same hands that are making them and are making the medicine come together. So now we're all making money off these people. They can't stop eating this stuff that we've got them hooked on. Now they got to get treated for it and buy our products for that, and it just keeps going around and around. So that's why I just feel like, again, to shoot Brian Thompson is not. I mean, and there's some people that are just jumping up and down like, "Yay, you got him!" But I'm gonna tell you, people, that's not really gonna do much, and it really goes back to even biblical connotations in terms of the root of all evil is this love of money. And that's why, again, you can't blame your nurse or your doctor. That's not, no. This industry is fueled by greed, and that's the love of money, you know what I mean? And more. And the thing is, there's no satiating it. It's just more and more and more and more. And so that's why even whatever, they'll peel back something, but in a while, they'll look at that profit margin and go back up, because people are they just want more and more and more, and at the expense of the little guy, or expense of the regular guy, or just collateral damage. You can die, and we'll just keep on moving. You know what I mean? And it's a terrible thing, but it's created some awareness. And again, I'm not sure. Again, the alleged killer Mangione. We'll probably learn more about him in the coming months, of just what really kind of, if he did it, what pushed him over the edge. And then again, we'll also kind of, I just know it's a terrible thing. And the thing is, you shouldn't have to kill someone to wake people up about what's happening in the healthcare industry. And that's the crazy part about it too. Is like people are like, well, yeah, maybe we should look. It shouldn't have took that. Y'all knew what was going on, and you were doing it anyway to make a buck. That shouldn't have had to happen, you know. So, and it's just I can't, you know, I don't. Nobody even knew who Brian Thompson. Probably 99.9% of people before he was murdered didn't even know who Brian Thompson was. So I can't even speak to what kind of man he was. I don't know. Was he a terrible guy, a good guy? I don't know. I just know it probably in the grand scheme of things doesn't matter because it's just one piece off. They'll put another piece on, but. We really need to, you know, there's a lot of places, a lot of the countries got free healthcare, which is good. There's some things about that too, about, you know, it's not a perfect system, but it seems better, you know, than what we have because people are literally getting priced to death. That's literally what's happening. They're getting priced to death, and just there's, you know, at some point you just can't pay it anymore. You know, the insulin price goes up. You know what I'm saying, or whatever. It just if it goes up too high, people will die. They can't get insulin. They're going to die. And to know that and put the price up anyway is just that's evil. It's an evil practice to do. You know people need this, and you're pricing them out, and they're gonna get killed. They're gonna die. So, you know, it's one of these problems where we shake our head and we hope something can be done, but you just wonder in the long run what will be done because it's not like the healthcare industry is going to be like, oh, well, we didn't know. They did know. So what, and who's going to stop all this profit? I mean, it's just hard to believe and wonder, but this young person or whoever did it, again, like I said, allegedly if Mangione did it, he definitely caused a stir. He did that for sure. I don't know how long it will last. I don't know how long the outrage will last, but it really just, you know, do your best, folks, to, man, I don't want to say what I want to say because it's hard. You know, you could just be in an accident tomorrow. I was going to say to try to, you know, stay out of the healthcare's clutches. But what can you do? Somebody can, God forbid, run into your car. You get injured. You got to get treated. You know, one hospital visit can just, they always say a lot of families are just one serious medical emergency away from being broke. You know what I mean? Like most people, even if you got savings, if it's a prolonged thing, you know, I watched the documentary on Christopher Reeve, which was amazing. And, you know, he was Superman and he was paralyzed. And even for him, at some point, the bills really started piling up because he needed constant care. He was quadriplegic and, you know, he could only do so much. And even then, for him, and a movie star and had a lot of money, but it's almost only so much money. And the longer you live in those kind of things, so I don't know. I don't really have a clean wrap up for this or a tidy thing to tell you, but the awareness is up, and you know people are frustrated, and I don't want more violence to happen. But you know, there's and there's some things that let me bring up this story real quick because there's I literally just saw this story where a woman was arrested because she threatened an insurance company on the phone, and she said delay, deny, and dispose, and she said some of you all are going to be next. Now there were 3 bullet casings found at the scene of where the CEO for UHC was killed, and those were written on the bullet casings. And so she said that, and she called Blue Cross Blue Shield, which is another one. And in a recorded call, she said, you know, delay, deny, and dispose. And she said, you people are next. And she's now been arrested for what she said because they're considering it as a threat. And they're taking that serious. And see, that's already causing a stir. I mean, this just happened, but there are already people that are like, she needs to be let go. She needs to be free. You know, it's, and the delay, deny, I'll end with this. Delay, deny, defend is a book written by an author about 10 years ago, and it's now jumped to the bestsellers list. Now, the author wants nothing to do with, he's not really giving interviews and talking about this. He really doesn't want nothing to do with this, but it's crazy how that book just jumped to the #1 book bestsellers, like a 10-year-old book. And now everybody's reading this book because they feel like maybe the killer was inspired by, I don't know. But I know that people are upset, they're frustrated, and they have a right to be. I'm not condoning any violence, any threats to be made. Again, calling Blue Cross, calling that receptionist and telling her she's next. She's not the problem, but the industry is the problem. I just hope that the people can do something to alleviate this financial burden that a lot of people are under, and it's not fair. And that, because it's something that you can't not address. Your health, if you're sick, you gotta, you can't let it go. If you're dying, you gotta address it. And they're just squeezing as many pennies out of people as they can. That's wrong. So that's the show today, guys. Like I said, we're hitting a lot during the 12 days, but stay with us. We got more shows coming. Appreciate the feedback. Please let me know how you feel about this one. A subscribe, or appreciate it very much. This is Channel 5 on the Mighty Sharp Network. Guys, you know what I want you to do. I want you to be blessed. Stay sharp.